Dogs have a reputation for being the ultimate listeners. You say walk, and the dog is already at the door. You say its name, and its ears go up instantly. Owners talk to their dogs constantly, sometimes in full sentences, sometimes explaining entire situations as if the dog is nodding along in perfect comprehension. But here's the question nobody really answers honestly. Does your dog actually understand what you're saying, or has it simply learned to react to sounds, tone, and context without understanding a single word? For a long time, the assumption was simple. Dogs are smart. Dogs listen, dogs understand, but understanding language is a much bigger claim than most people realize. Understanding a word means recognizing it regardless of who says it, how it's said, or what else is happening in the room. That's a very different skill from just reacting to a familiar sound in a familiar context. Scientists have spent the last 2 decades trying to figure out where dogs actually land on that spectrum, and the answer turns out to be far more interesting than a simple yes or no. One of the most important studies came from a border collie named Chaser, trained by researchers at Wofford College. Chaser learned the names of over 1,000 individual objects, correctly retrieving specific toys by name from a pile of others. That's not just pattern recognition. Chaser could pick out one exact object out of hundreds based on a spoken word alone. This suggested that at least some dogs are capable of building something close to a real vocabulary, not just a handful of trained commands. But here's where it gets complicated. Most dogs are not Chaser. The average dog understands somewhere between 89 and 215 words, according to research using owner-reported comprehension tests. That's a real vocabulary, but it's mostly built around commands, names, and objects directly relevant to daily life. Walk, sit, dinner. Your dog isn't parsing grammar. It's recognizing a small, practical set of sound patterns tied to specific outcomes. Researchers in Hungary used MRI scanners, the same kind used on humans, to study how dog brains actually process speech. They found something remarkable. Dogs process the meaning of words and the intonation of speech in separate parts of the brain, very similar to how human brains work. Praise words spoken in a positive tone activated the reward centers of the dog's brain more strongly than the same word spoken in a flat, neutral tone. In other words, dogs aren't just reacting to word meaning, they're combining word meaning with emotional tone to build a fuller picture of what you're communicating.